Hi friends, today let's solve problems related to communication, communication engineering. So this is 2017 ESET question paper. So question number 136. So the image channel rejection in a super heterodyne receiver comes at which stage? It basically comes at the RF stage. So you have to remember the block diagram of a super heterodyne receiver, which will be having RF stage, mixer, IF amplifier, demodulator, audio amplifier and power amplifier, and the mixer will be having a local oscillator. So the image frequency rejection basically happens at the RF stage only. So see this diagram. So the image frequency must be rejected by the receiver and the image rejection must be achieved before the IF stage, because once it reaches IF stage it cannot be removed. So that is why the image rejection happens at RF stages only. Now let's go to the next question. So the most commonly used signaling in case of pulse code modulation, this is nothing but NRZ type of signaling, because it has lesser bandwidth. So I'll show you the, so this is NRZ scheme. So here you will be having lesser bandwidth. So next, what exactly is the modulation index in case of an FM wave? So the modulation index is given by the formula delta F by Fm, where delta F is the frequency deviation and Fm is the modulating frequency. So if you see the formula given here, so observe all the options. So increase with frequency deviation and decrease with modulation frequency. So if you see MF, if the numerator delta F will increase, MF will increase, and if FM will be decreasing, automatically the modulation index will be increasing. Next, so in case of an FM wave, in FM the amount of frequency deviation is proportional to, so we have a formula kf is equal to delta F by Fm, and the frequency deviation of a carrier is proportional to the amplitude. So frequency deviation of the carrier is proportional to the amplitude of the modulating signal. So if you see this here, option 1 is given with this particular option. So remember the slope or this particular formula, as per this the frequency deviation will be proportional to the amplitude of the modulating signal. Next, in phase modulation PM, the frequency deviation is, the frequency deviation in this case is directly proportional to the modulating signal. So this is a very important question, so we have, it's better we go through the comparison of FM and PM. So see FM and PM. So equation wise you will have MF here and MP here. So frequency deviation is proportional to the modulating voltage here, and phase deviation is proportional to the modulating voltage. So with the change in FC there is some change in the phase. So with the change in phase there is some change in FC. Next, so it is possible to receive an PM FM on a PM receiver, and in case it is vice versa here. So amplitude of an FM wave is constant and both amplitude of the PM wave is constant. So this is one important point. So noise immunity is better than AM and PM in case of FM, and noise immunity is better than AM but worse than FM. So this is a point where questions are generally framed. So PM is basically used in mobile systems. So SNR ratio of FM is better than PM. However, see this, it is inferior. So in FM the frequency deviation is proportional to the modulating voltage. This is the question which is asked now. In PM the frequency deviation is proportional to modulating voltage and modulating frequency. Next, ground wave is effective when transmitting and receiving antennas are vertically polarized. So vertical polarization is the concept which is used in transmitting and receiving antennas because it is subjected to lesser attenuation compared to horizontal polarization signals. So that is why it is basically used in medium wave broadcast stations. So it has also inductive, it is made up of inductive short loading. Okay, so this is the concept why we have vertical polarization in case of ground waves. Next, space wave field strength depends upon both direct and ground wave. So if you have space wave, if you have your receiver and transmitter, so the wave will be going directly and also in through reflected waves. So direct and reflected waves both are present in space wave. So I'll show you a pictorial representation for this. See this. So if you have your receiver and transmitter, both reflected wave and directed wave both will be traveling. Next, so I'll be solving all the problems in another video. So this question, so during the daytime the ionospheric layer that does not exist is F layer. So you have to know during nights you will be having F layer and E layer, and during daytime you will be having D layer and F2 and F1 layer. So if you observe this, you will not be having F layer during daytime in case of ionospheric layer. So I'll show you the explanation here also. See this. So during day layer you will be having D and F1 F2 layers, and during night you will be having E layer and F layer. Next, so an EM wave incident on a perfect conductor will be entirely reflected. So if you imagine, if a wave is incident, it will be reflected. Since it is a perfect conductor, the wave will be reflected entirely. Okay, remember, since the conductor is perfect, you have entire reflection. Next, the power pattern of a surface emitter LED is generally Lambertian pattern. So surface emitter LED, I'll show you how exactly the pattern will look for a better understanding. So this is your surface emitting light emitting diode, okay, and this is how Lambertian pattern will look like. So you have the magnitude as B naught into cos phi, which is the surface emitting diode LED power pattern. Next, so which of the following technique, splicing technique, is used for permanent joint? Generally, fusion splicing is mostly used method in splicing, which is for permanently joining two fibers. So it is mainly used because it will be having low insertion loss and virtually no back reflection. So fusion splicing is a technique which is used for permanent joining with the following advantages. Remember this. Next, I'll show you how exactly this fusion splicing will look. So this is how your fusion splicing will look. You have a fiber holders and an electric arc, and then you will keep both the fibers, and this is where the fusion splicing will happen. So this is your explanation for this question. Next, what exactly is the directivity of half wave dipole? This is a standard question. The directivity is given by the formula 4 pi r square into S max by period radiation power, and if you substitute all the values, you will be having 1.64 or 2.15 dB, which is a standard value. So 1.64 is the directivity of half wave dipole. So if you want the explanation, this is it. So this is in your graduation. The radiation resistance formula is given by this. So simply remember this formula. You may get questions on this. 4 pi into r square, radiation resistance square, into S max by P power radiated. So it is simply 1.64, which is to be remembered. Next, in a n number Yagi-Uda antenna, how many reflectors will be there? So see the question. In an n number elemental Yagi-Uda antenna, the number of reflectors are, simply you will be having only one reflection. So the first one will be your reflector, and you will be having all the director elements. So these are called directors. However, there will be only one main reflector. I'll show you the diagram for this. So if you observe this, you will be having only one reflector, whereas I have driver elements and directors which are n in nature. Next, so in a parabolic antenna, what is a reflector called? So if you observe, it is called a secondary antenna, because a secondary reflector is used to direct energy in parabolic reflector from a feed antenna located from the primary focal point. So the microwave transmitter will be something looking like this. So I'll show you. In parabolic antenna, reflector is called secondary antenna. So this is your feed. You have a reflector surface and concave reflector. So what exactly is a duplexer consist of? So a duplexer will be having both transmitter and receiver. This is a very standard question. So duplexer will act as both transmitter and receiver. So it will look like an open circuit for transmission line during reception, and ATR will be looking like short circuit for the transmission line. Therefore it will be acting as both transmitter and receiver. I'll show you the block diagram for duplexer. So this is a duplexer and you have ATR and TR. So TR will act as open circuit during transmission and during reception, and ATR will act as short circuit during the transmission. So both the works will be happening simultaneously. Next, the basic principle of operation in a reflex klystron. This is a very standard question. It is simply velocity modulation. So reflex klystron basically works on velocity and current modulation. The electron beam is injected from cathode, and this electron beam will be passing through accelerating anode. Remember this? So the electrons will be moving in the tube with uniform velocity until it reaches the cavity. Okay. Next, I'll show you the diagram for the above concept also. So this is how a reflex klystron will work, and it works based on the principles and what exactly it is. So a satellite system will be consisting of both transponder and ground based stations. I'll show you. So remember, ground terminal, you have ground terminals and the transponder will be doing the work. So bidirectional in nature, and you will be having your base unit. So I'll show you the diagram for this. So see, you have a transponder and a ground terminals which will be doing this. So it has both transponders and ground based stations. Next, the cutoff wavelength of TE10 mode in a standard. So if you remember, the cutoff frequency is given C by 2A. Therefore, simply if you observe it for TE10 mode, you will be having it as 2A. So remember, F is equal to the cutoff frequency in case of a TE10 mode in a rectangular waveguide is C by 2A. So with this, you have the 2017 communication problems questions related to concepts completed, and we will be continuing 2018 communications in the next topic.